Hello Pokemon trainers, welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Battle Stadium Singles video here on iStarly TV. This is part of my Road to Master series where I try to climb the online ranked Battle Stadium Singles ladder. And just in time for the end of the season, I have a brand new team here that I built myself. And even though this season has ended, next month is the same rule set, same format, so you can use this team in June if you'd like as well, and it's a pretty good team. It's been doing really well for me, and in fact it actually helped me get to Master Ball rank for this season because I was struggling throughout the whole season, and I just threw together this team, really kind of honed in on it and played a lot of games, and it did really well, and of course you're going to see some of those games coming up. So the team, of course, is built around Kyurem Black, or Black Kyurem, however you want to say it, which is, of course, a pretty unconventional restricted legend in this meta, but I had played against one in with an older team, and it destroyed me. It was actually really strong, and so I wanted to build around it. And it has really good coverage with Dragon, Ice, and then, of course, it does learn an Electric-type move as well because Zekrom, it's part Zekrom, kind of. It's really, really good. So, the old Bolt Beam coverage, which is Ice and Electric coverage, which very few things resist, has proven to be really, really good in this meta. And with the moveset, we have just enough speed to outspeed, I believe, Calyrex after a Dragon Dance or Scale Shot. So we have both Dragon Dance and Scale Shot, each of which can boost our speed, which is pretty awesome. Scale Shot is a very proactive way of doing that. And then, of course, we have Icicle Spear. We have the loaded dice, which makes Scale Shot and Icicle Spear do or hit 5 times, which is really powerful. And then Fusion Bolt, which is a really strong electric type attack. And of course, we are Terra Electric as well to really boost the damage from the electric type move. And then we have Max Attack, just obviously to hit really hard. And then the rest of it in HP, and then a couple points in defense and special defense. Now, the rest of the team is really interesting. A lot of these Pokemon don't see a lot of play. And so we'll just kind of go right through it. So we have Garganacl, which is a pretty good Pokemon in this meta. It's pretty decent against the ghost types. I'm running max HP and max special defense. And 2 of the best Pokemon in this meta are ghost types, of course, Fluttermane and Calyrex. And it's also pretty good against most other special attackers as well, except for like water types and stuff like that. It's not great against Koraidon, but we're not really trying to go up against it. I guess actually if you get up a few Iron Defense boosts, we can hold our own against Koraidon if we Terrastalize, but the main goal is for this Pokemon to be good against Fluttermane and Calyrex, and, pretty standard otherwise. This was a Pokemon that was really good in original Scarlet and Violet Battle Stadium Singles, and it kind of does that here as well. Then I have Choice Banded Dragonite. Originally I had Chien-Pao on this slot, but I found that I kind of struggled in a lot of situations against Koraidon. I don't have that many great answers to Koraidon. And if Koraidon kind of starts to snowball, it's really hard to come from behind. And it's tricky with Koraidon because before Terrastalizing, it is weak to Chien-Pao's Ice-type moves. And then after Terrastalizing, it resists those. So it's just really tough to face for Chien-Pao. So I decided to use Dragonite because I thought Dragonite could be pretty decent. It can live a hit and then get off a lot of damage. It also is good with extreme speed for picking off slower Pokemon, which of course can really help Pokemon that have been weakened previously. Then we have Shiftry, which is probably one of the most interesting members of the team. As or if you remember, if you've been following my channel for a while, I used Shiftry in one of the previous formats, and it was actually pretty solid. And this is basically the same exact Shiftry set that I was running, but the reason for this is I wanted something that can taunt, but also, it's a dark type, which makes it good against the common ghost types in the meta. And it can use Tailwind, and so Tailwind was a big reason why I wanted to use it, because if I use Tailwind, it really helps support Kyurem as well as Dragonite, just giving them that extra speed. Also, Shiftry's ability boosts its attack stat when it is in Tailwind, so yeah, I mean, I wanted to try it out, even though it looks really weird and probably looks extremely weak, but I've been actually having pretty good success with Shiftry, and I've been really liking it a lot. Then we have Skeledirge, which is another one that was really good in previous Battle Stadium Singles formats, but hasn't been very good for a while. But Skeledirge is actually pretty good into Koraidon, and a lot of other physical attackers, because with Unaware, it can ignore any boosts that they set up. And I also EV'd this one so that it can actually survive against Calyrex. Now, of course, you know, we're not going to be surviving everything from every Pokemon, and you know, there's definitely situations where Calyrex is very good against Skeledirge, but I still thought that this worked. And of course, all we need sometimes is just to get off a ghost type move against Calyrex and just one-hit KO them. So sometimes that can work out pretty well. But Skeledirge has also been pretty good for me as well. And then finally, we have my Espeon, my tried and true Espeon, one of my favorite Pokemon in this whole meta. If you've been following me for a while, I mean, I was looking through the previous teams I made, and I think all of them have Espeon on it, so maybe in this new season I will try to not use Espeon so much just to give some variety, but I just love it. It's a cool Pokemon, you know, it's cute, it's shiny, it's really good in the meta, but also a big part of it is that it's something that not everyone's using, and it just feels so good to use something unconventional and have success with it. So I love me some Espeon. You know, again, just in case you're new here, this Espeon is Choice Scarf, and the goal is to use Magic Bounce against Pokemon that try to set up Stealth Rock. A lot of people forget about Magic Bounce. We have just enough speed to outspeed Calyrex, which also I've had a lot of situations where my Espeon destroys Calyrex because they aren't expecting it to be Choice Scarf, so I just Shadow Ball and one-hit KO them, which is absolutely amazing. Also, we have Psychic or Dazzling Gleam against Koraidon. So yeah, this Espeon has just been so good. Dare I say, it feels better in this meta than it did in the previous meta. Like, you know, like I said, I keep putting it on teams, but the reason I keep doing that is because it's just been so good. So there's the team for you, and yeah, let's get to those games, see how they go. All right, we have game number 1 here, and my opponent has a Miraidon team. And honestly, I mean, I focus very heavily on Koraidon and Calyrex, but I honestly feel like sometimes I do that a little too hard, and I end up sometimes forgetting some of the other restricted legends in the meta. But I looked at my opponent's team here. By the way, this is post-commentary. I was recording these battles because I was trying to get to Master Ball rank, and I didn't know how long that would take, so I didn't want to just record my voiceover for like 3 hours or however long it would take. So I just recorded the battles as I was playing them, and then I figured I would voice over after. So I looked at my opponent's team, and I figured that Shiftry looked like it would be in a pretty good spot here, so I led with that. I was wondering if Espeon would be good here too, but my opponent has a lot of dark types. Now, Espeon is really good against Ting-Lu, because they cannot set up Stealth Rock against me, and usually they use Ruination as their dark type move, and then I usually trick them a Choice Scarf, which is really good, you know, because Ting-Lu doesn't want a Choice Scarf. But they also have Chien-Pao, and then they also have even Ogre Pond Water, and even the Gouging Fire. So they had a lot of Pokemon that I wasn't really certain about with Espeon, so I thought Shiftry would be a nice lead. I did expect them to possibly lead with Ting-Lu again, but Shiftry is another Pokemon. So I love having this like kind of double lead thing with Shiftry or Espeon. Each of them is good against different things, and each of them is actually a pretty good lead. So it's kind of nice to have that where, you know, in a lot of situations where Espeon would not be very good, Shiftry can sometimes be very good, and vice versa. So here, of course, I predict them to go for that Stealth Rock, and they do. So I basically get a free turn there, and I shut down their Stealth Rock. And here, I think I went for the Tailwind. Sorry, I was paying attention to something else real quick. But, you know, usually that's what we do with Shiftry, is set up Tailwind as early as possible, which, of course, doubles our speed, but also gives us an attack boost thanks to our ability. And then it lets us outspeed everything at that point, and we hit really hard as well. So they go into Miraidon, which I'm not super scared of, because again, Shiftry's main goal is to maybe taunt something, prevent them from setting up Stealth Rock, set up a Tailwind, and then go for a move to do a lot of damage, and then basically die at that point. So here I'm just going to go Knock Off. You know, I guaranteed survive any hit from them. And I'm going to be faster than them thanks to that Tailwind. Yeah, so as you can see here, this knockoff does massive damage. And it turns out they're actually choice specs, which is really interesting. And possibly also interestingly, they have U-turn. I guess that's not super surprising. But of course, because of my Focus Sash, I do survive that for sure. I think I survived that even without Focus Sash, which is interesting. I guess, you know, Miraidon doesn't have the best attack stat, but it's just really funny because I'm 4 times weak to that. Now they go into Chien-Pao. Of course, I am aware of the Sucker Punch, and I considered switching just so that I could nullify the Sucker Punch, but I also thought maybe there's a chance they don't go for it, so I went for Leaf Blade. I didn't want to take any risks there because I'm already ahead in this battle. They do go for that safe Sucker Punch, and that does cleanly knock me out, so, you know, good on them. Pretty standard line, like, sequence of play there, but you know, if you've seen my videos in the past, you know, sometimes I struggle with over-predicting or not predicting enough, and I just decided to play it really safe there. Now here we are in a tricky situation because I think I still have maybe one turn of Tailwind left. But of course, Chien-Pao is very good against both of my remaining Pokemon, and this was kind of a mistake on my part. I brought these 3 Pokemon, all of which are weak to Chien-Pao, and I saw the Chien-Pao on the enemy team, so there's not really an excuse for me, but either way, I just go for the Scale Shot here because if they have a Focus Sash, it should break it, and it should kill them. And again, because I'm at one more turn of Tailwind, I should outspeed them as well here thanks to that Tailwind. So you can see how Tailwind really comes in clutch, and how having that Shiftry in the lead slot really helps with Pokemon like Kyurem, because Kyurem has an insane attack stat. It has, I think, the highest attack stat possibly in the entire game, but its speed is not amazing. Also, its defensive typing is rough. Dragon and Ice is a really, it's weak to a lot of things. So if you're using Kyurem Black, it's a really good Pokemon, but you also need to consider supporting it to the best of your ability. But Tailwind runs out there, and I still have the speed boost from the Scale Shot, so now I know that I am faster than this Miraidon, and I can just freely click the Icicle Spear. Scale Shot does have a chance to miss, which is why I don't want to go for that. Plus, if they somehow, for some reason, switch into Tinglu, it is also weak to Icicle Spear. But I believe Tinglu is the last Pokemon they have left, and I have 2 Pokemon remaining, so I don't really think there's too many ways that my opponent could come back from this one. I think they concede here. I think they run. Let's see. Either way, I mean, of course, they have not yet terastallized, so they still have that option on the table. But yeah, they do cancel. Because I was thinking to myself, like, oh, there's still a chance that, I don't guaranteed win this, because they could Terra or something like that, but they end up, leaving. I think that makes sense. I do think it's very likely I was winning that battle. But yeah, game number 1, we get a W. Shiftry looked great, Kyurem looked great. I couldn't ask for anything better, so let's do another one here. Game number 2, my opponent's team also looks really scary. They have Kyogre, which you don't see quite as often anymore, but it's still a very good Pokemon. They also have Ditto, which is another Pokemon that I'm really scared of because, of course, Ditto can copy your Pokemon and its stat boosts for free. So that is something where Ditto really punishes if you're trying to set up with, like, Kyurem, for example, or Zacian or something like that. So they also, of course, have Quagsire, which is another Pokemon that can ignore stat boosts. So looking at this team, I was kind of scared. I was like, I don't know exactly how to approach this. And I decided to once again lead with Shiftry here because, it's pretty decent against a lot of their Pokemon. I think Ditto typically runs Choice Scarf. So basically, if I see a Ditto on the enemy team, I kind of try to bring a lot of Pokemon that don't rely on setup or that are very reliant on like switching their moves up so that if they go into Ditto, like, they're locked into a move because they typically have a Choice Scarf. But I brought Shiftry, Skeledirge, and Kyurem. I still brought Kyurem there because Kyurem does look pretty solid against their team. Even the Pokemon like Quagsire with Unaware or even Ditto, like, Kyurem, if we can get the upper hand in some cases, it can still be very good. It also can, Icicle Spear against Mimikyu to break its disguise and potentially kill it. It can Scale Shot against Baxcalibur. I mean, at this point, like, I love Baxcalibur. I think it's an awesome Pokemon, but, I mean, I guess you could still use it. I was going to say, like, Kyurem Black is better than Baxcalibur in, like, every way, but, of course, Kyurem is a restricted legend, so if you want to use both Baxcalibur and a restricted legend, you could get away with that, whereas you cannot use Kyurem with another restricted legend, I guess. Either way, let's see how this goes. Pretty interesting trainer card. By the way, since there's a new season, just for fun, I might change my trainer card and maybe change my trainer's look. So be on the lookout for that, I guess. Maybe starting in June, my battle videos will have a different look. By the way, I'm probably uploading this video at the beginning of June. I'm recording it ahead because I have another video coming out today that I already recorded. And today is May 31st. So you're probably seeing this video in June, actually, in the beginning of the new season. But either way, I recorded it, towards the end of the previous season. So anyways, my opponent leads with Ditto, which is kind of surprising. I don't know what they expected me to lead with. Maybe they wanted to see what I would lead with and just kind of learn what my moves are by copying them. But this does put me in a pretty rough situation because Shiftry versus Shiftry is actually not something I'm super happy about because I only have a Grass and a Dark type move to hit with, for damage. And Shiftry resists both of those, so I'm gonna have to definitely, try something else here. So I end up deciding to switch out. I didn't think I was losing too much by doing this. If they went for Tailwind, I guess that sucks. But aside from that, I know that Kyurem doesn't mind taking like a Leaf Blade or if they go for Taunt or something. So very interestingly, they went for a Leaf Blade. Now, the funny thing is, if they had gone for a knockoff, that honestly would have been pretty bad for me. So that was a risky play, but I definitely did not want to leave my Shiftry in against them. And luckily for me, they did go for Leaf Blade, and they're just going to leave their Shiftry in here, which is a huge mistake, unless they just really didn't want to switch anything else in. Maybe they were terrified that I would Dragon Dance or something, or maybe they second guessed how fast I am. But it's revealed that they do not have Choice Scarf, and we're just able to cleanly destroy them with that Icicle Spear. If they didn't have Choice Scarf, they probably have Focus Sash, which I believe is like the second most used item for Ditto. And, you know, Focus Sash obviously doesn't matter. Maybe that's another reason they stayed in, because they figured they have Focus Sash, so it kind of didn't matter what I did, but of course, you know, it did matter. Now they go back Excalibur, as I was talking about. And here I'm thinking, obviously Scale Shot is the very clear play, but I figured that they would Terrastalize here, so I didn't really know. I mean, I can't really switch. I definitely cannot switch a Shiftry into Baxcalibur, and if I switch a Skeledirge into Baxcalibur, usually Skeledirge has a decent matchup there, but I cannot burn them because of their ability. And if they like set up, actually I guess setting up doesn't matter. So I guess Skeledirge would have been a decent switch here, to be quite honest. Either way, I do not switch, and they go Terra Fire, which is kind of rough. However, I should still do some decent damage to them. But of course, I'm going to get a defense boost, a defense drop as well as a speed boost, which means that any of their moves that they go for are going to be hitting a lot harder. So I do hit 5 times. Unfortunately, that's not enough to knock them out. And here, I think they go for, they go for Dragon Dance, which is pretty insane. I guess it makes some amount of sense. Maybe they didn't know exactly what I was going to go for, but maybe they expected me to go for an ice type move. But luckily for me, I mean, obviously Scale Shot boosts my speed, so we both boosted our speed, and I'm faster than them naturally, so I'm still faster. And they have Ice Shard. Oh yeah, this one, yeah, they have Ice Shard, which does not kill me. It almost gets there, but it does not kill me. I barely survive, and that is going to allow me to knock them out. And of course, my opponent rage quits, so pretty good stuff. I don't know who their last Pokemon was. I'm assuming if it was Kyogre, I would be in a pretty good position, because at that point, they've already Terrastalized. So I could just simply go Terra Electric and then go Fusion Bolt on them and basically destroy them. And I should be faster than them at that point because I have a speed boost. So fun battle, interesting battle. You know, it was short-lived, but it was still a good one. Let's go to game 3. And here we are for game number 3. My opponent has a couple of very strong, very scary ghost types. They also have Archaludon, which is a Pokemon that I really don't like going up against. You know, Espeon's not amazing against it, and neither is Shiftry. And it's pretty versatile as well. Like, they can set up Stealth Rock, but they can also do a lot of damage. So pretty scary stuff. They also have Ursaluna, who's really good. Dragonite, who's very good and hard to break. And then they have Urshifu, who is not quite as good anymore, but it's still a strong Pokemon. So, you know, Urshifu's very good against Skeledirge, for example, so that kind of dissuades me from wanting to bring that. Lead with Espeon here. I figured Archaludon's their most likely lead, and Espeon has a better chance against Arch than Shiftry does. And also, like, you know, Archaludon typically has stamina for its ability. Not always, but typically, and so I don't want to lead with like Dragonite and start going for Earthquakes, because then if they survive, I just start, you know, boosting their defense for them, which is really rough. So I decided to bring Kyurem in the back because Kyurem just looks good anyway. Like, it looks really strong, potentially very good against them. And then I thought Garganacl looks pretty strong against those ghost types. Could potentially be good against Ursaluna. It could be good against Dragonite if I can get up a defense boost, but we'll see. So they do lead Arch, which not super surprising. I think I went for Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball and Dazzling Gleam would do the same amount of damage, but of course Shadow Ball has a chance to lower their special defense. Plus their team overall is weaker to Shadow Ball than to Dazzling Gleam. Although of course if they went Ursaluna, that would be awful. But my opponent forgets about Magic Bounce or doesn't know about it, and they went for Thunder Wave, which really helps me out. Now unfortunately, this is more than a 2-hit KO. I was hoping that this Shadow Ball would get a little bit of extra damage or something and knock them out, maybe a crit or something, but unfortunately they do survive, and that is going to allow them to go for Electro Shot, and presumably, or as you will soon see, they do have the Power Herb item, which is what I like to run on Archaludon, which allows them to fire off that electric shot in 1 turn. So this is going to do massive damage. I think I barely survive, which is amazing. And then I'm going to be able to go for that Shadow Ball there to knock them out finally. If I had gotten that special defense drop sooner, or if I had gotten a crit or whatever, you know, I could have knocked them out without ever taking damage. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't want to complain. And Espeon, beautiful Espeon, is doing great. So any chance we get for Espeon's great. Now, here's a fun moment. They go into Calyrex. Espeon's naturally faster than Archelodon, so they have no reason. I mean, sure, they have a reason, but they very well don't expect me to, or very well could not expect. What am I trying to say? Basically, they don't expect me to be Scarfed, and so I completely blindside them and just obliterate their health with a Shadow Ball, which is 4 times super effective. If they did not have Focus Sash, they would be dead, but of course they do have Focus Sash. And here's an important moment. I realized I made a huge mistake. I should have gone Terrastalized there. I should have Terrastalized, predicting the Astral Barrage. I guess this is a hindsight thing, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda. But if I had predicted that Astral Barrage and Terrastalized, this game would be so easy because I would take 0 damage from it and knock them out with a follow-up Shadow Ball. But I have to take needless damage from the... Well, not needless damage. I have to get knocked out by the Barrage. So I go into Garg here, and they're going to go Terra Fairy. I don't remember what I clicked. I wasn't really looking. I think I click Iron Defense here. But I will admit, this is a part where it gets a little bit stally. So... yeah, because they go Draining Kiss. Let's see if we can navigate this part of the battle. Maybe I'll skip ahead if it gets too repetitive, too tedious. But they go Draining Kiss, which does less than half, which is good to see. And then I go Salt Cure. I just know that I figured I could live a hit pretty nicely from them. I was really lucky. I felt like I was really lucky that they were not going for Psychic, but maybe they figured that they just needed to get a little bit of health back, and they probably figured that I couldn't really kill them. So I go for the Salt Cure. Now, because of that health from Draining Kiss, it is not enough to knock them out, the Salt Cure. So I'm just spamming Salt Cure here. Here they decide to go for Barrage, and it does very... oh, no, it does a lot, actually. Never mind. It does a lot of damage. Oh, wait, maybe... sorry. Okay, sorry. I was thinking of a different battle that I was doing on Showdown, where it was between my Garganacl and a Calyrex, and it went on for so many turns. And eventually I was able to knock them out, but it was painful. So luckily that was not this battle. I was thinking of the wrong one. But either way, we get the knockoff with that second Salt Cure. You know, unfortunately for them, Draining Kiss was not enough. And because of my ability, which allows me to effectively resist Ghost-type moves, I survived that Astral Barrage pretty nicely. Here I was thinking of what to do. I figured I'd just go for Recover. I knew that they could just go for Moonblast and probably knock me out. I should live a Shadow Ball, though. But they actually go for the Shadow Ball, which I was really surprised by. I wonder if they're choice specs and they just figured that they wanted to lock themselves into Shadow Ball because it's the best move for the rest of my team, or I don't know what, or maybe they're not super aware of Garganacl's ability, but again, my ability allows me to... It basically takes reduced damage from Ghost-type moves, so because of that, my opponent simply concedes because, you know, what else is there to do at that point? So yeah, that was 3 wins in a row. I can't remember the last time I had something like that happen, and this team had an amazing showing for me. Of course, as I said, it did help me get Master Ball in the first month of Regulation G. So I will definitely be using this team more in case I want to grind some ranks, because it's really strong. And I love it. I mean, I can't say enough about it, about how much I love it. The fact that it's using very unconventional Pokemon like Skeledirge, Shiftry, Espeon. So I imagine my opponent sees those Pokemon and they assume that my team is really bad, but then my team is able to kind of hold its own against those. So Kyurem-Black is amazing. I think you should use it. I think you should use this team, and definitely let me know in the comments how it does for you. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. The first, you know, obviously it took me this long to get to Master Ball rank in the previous season. And it always happens like that when there's a new format, because I'm just trying a lot of things out. And of course I end up kind of losing a lot of games just by trial and error and stuff. And it's a learning experience. And of course I don't always like to use the most broken Pokemon all the time. So I try to use fun stuff. And of course that ends up kind of hurting me sometimes, but it's still a lot of fun. And I think I really found my groove with this team. Like, this team feels fun to use. It feels easy to use, for me at least. And it's refreshing. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe for more Pokemon Scarlet and Violet videos like this one. And if you have any suggestions for Pokemon I should use, let me know in the comments. Now, I still have not used Calyrex. I will eventually. I've definitely used Koraidon, and I probably want to go back to it as well. But I think this format can still be fun if you're trying out some refreshing things. The next format, I mean, we still have this format for the month of June. I don't know if that's going to change in July, but I know that in Sword and Shield, they did this format where you can use one restricted legend, and then in the next rule set, you could use 2. So that's where things get really crazy. But either way, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like. Please subscribe for more Pokemon Scarlet and Violet videos. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.